because that's what performance assessment is about. You're assessing how well they perform on a task, and if it's not 100%, it's not a failure, it's a learning experience.
Karen Lippy uses performance assessment throughout her science curriculum. She teaches at the Hood Canal Institute, part of the science program at North Mason High School. Her students are often found outside the classroom monitoring and analyzing everything from streams to oysters to saltwater marshes. Karen uses these performance-based projects to meet science and math standards for grades 9 through 12.
Most of our activities that we do with the students are not textbook driven, they're project driven. There are some very strict standards that we must teach. Those are embedded in various units within our courses. That's up till 10th grade. We made a decision as a staff that from 11th through 12th grade, it was really more important to be more specialized. We're more concerned, are they getting the real work skills? Are they getting the kind of attitudes that they can take into the workplace and to their further education? So we look more at 11th and 12th grade instead of everybody getting a state standard, is are we preparing them for life?
Karen's students assess each other's work, but informally and indirectly. Students work in teams, so they receive evaluations as a team. Reflections are an important, non-confrontational avenue for critical feedback.
I know a lot of you were in the field and you were not in class, and so you need to know when you were out in that field so I can pay you equitably.
Self-assessment is a different story. Students self-assess by modeling the working world. From the start, they apply for jobs needed to complete a given project. They present their qualifications and interests, and, if selected, they keep a timesheet and assign themselves a pay rate.
For example, when a team's working, they know that they're what we call $8, $9, and $10 hour jobs. If you are paying yourself 10 points an hour, what we call it $10 an hour, you are taking leadership. You have to be in charge and making that decision. I don't decide that, the students do. So they are to track their time every week they work, assign themselves the proper pay category, and also look at themselves in 18 work skills areas and decide if they should have their pay reduced for poor work skills. I will post then your grades for Monday so you can see where you stand. And yes, I am the one who looks at it, and if I feel that they're not being honest, we talk, we decide. I would say 80–85% of my class is completely honest, and many of them, if anything, are harsh.
While self-assessment is important, a critical part of Karen's curriculum is designing performance tasks. Karen considers well-designed tasks key to performance assessment. She starts with the belief that every student deserves a chance to succeed.
A well-designed task needs to allow students to bring, what they have to the table, and if a student's not a very good writer or reader, and the task requires that, then part of that is up to me to make sure the student has whatever aids. The other piece that really comes into play is many of these tasks are being done in teams. In some kinds of tasks, you can break the job up and students can work within their strengths. You end up with a good quality product and everyone feeling like they contributed.
Another critical part of Karen's curriculum is stating clearly the standards expected and the steps necessary to complete a project.
Communicating clear standards to students is a critical part of performance assessments because most of what they look at school in is kind of a minimalistic, how little can I get away with part. And that's really difficult. We have set standards built for the categories of projects that we work with. So, for example, if a student's working on a publication, it has to be publishable. That's what we communicate to the students, that this isn't just for the teacher. And you can't have misspellings, you can't have fuzzy pictures. Tasks many times have to measure several outcomes. Part of it's just good communication, making lists of what is expected, and they learn to make lists and to organize themselves and to put themselves together. And it's a matter of making sure that you work the students up to the final product step by step, because if you hand them most things, you'll end up with a really poor product because they won't know how to get there. So what seems easy to me, it may be very difficult.
Oh, and we got some sort of little worm larva thing in here too.
In one class, the students who are learning about bugs in the stream, they start out by doing some reading about bugs. They learn to use a key to identify bugs. Then they look at bugs in jars, and then they start looking at the monitoring forms that they have to fill out, and they use little paper bugs to fill that out before they ever go to the performance. So by aligning a series of tasks and making sure they're built in the right order, that the student can achieve one after the other, you can get them to fairly sophisticated tasks. And the students usually say, well, that was easy. We did everything we needed to know how to do this. Performance assessment, if it's going to work, has to be built that way and be lined up straight. When you work with younger students, like ninth graders, on a performance task, take baby steps. If you do it at that level, you work your way up so that by the time they're seniors, it's a natural process for them and you can ask for amazing things and they just go do it and everybody thinks they're brilliant and it's just that's what they naturally have built up to. It's not a one-shot deal. It's almost like a muscle in your head that needs exercise, and it needs to frequently be exercised and not just one taken out at the end of the chapter for one big question.